Good afternoon, everyone. I know it's almost lunchtime and we're between you and lunch, but can we have some energy in the room? I know there is a lot of energy here. Good afternoon, everyone. See? You know, the world as we know has changed. Let me repeat that. The world as we know has changed, and irrevocably so, if I may add. What we've experienced since 2020 is not called a crisis of a generation without reason. But first off, congratulations, we're all out of it, alive, kicking, and we are under one roof again. Let's cheer for that. And as we also say, never waste a crisis. For they provide a lot of learning, a lot of experiences, and a platform for us to build on our experiences, learn, and leap ahead. Now, with the onset of hybrid work and the emergence of the intertwining of human and tech, and that's the topic for our session today, new ways of working has emerged, and we as a function has a role to play, will have a role to play in shaping the ways of work, the new ways of work, and also the culture that it demands to make this successful. HR, again, as a function, and our leaders of the organization will have a huge leadership role to play to continue to influence and coach talent and leaders alike in a continual journey. It's a journey in a continuum, and this journey demands an approach where learning beats knowing. Let me repeat that, learning beats knowing. With that context, it's an absolute honor to have Lisa, Alex, and Shaswat to share some of their thoughts today with all of us. And before we jump into the panel topic, I just wanted to start with something really light, keep the mood light. So let's start with some Proust questions. Shaswat, I'll probably start with you. What's your present state of mind? Oh, by the way, before we get to that, the response in a word, a sentence, or a phrase only.
Curious.
Curious. Lisa, same question for you.
The question was my present state of mind.
Present state of mind, yes.
Besides jet lagged.
That's accepted.
Yes. Excited.
Excited.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, just feeling rather peaceful. It's quite nice on the couch.
One more question. Alex, I'll start with you. A word that jumps to your mind when we say hybrid, it's all around us. So what jumps to your mind?
I think of liberating. It actually unleashes potential and choice. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Lisa, next question. Given that we are going to be talking a little bit about tech as well today,
Yeah.
What's your most funny brush with technology?
I think it's using technology for things that maybe you don't need to. My husband is an engineer, and he has put technology in my house, so I can't turn on and off the lights without an app. And I find that extremely frustrating. I would like to just turn the switch.
Shashwat, best learning experience so far?
Actually, that's personal childhood stories with my grandfather.
Awesome.
And his friends.
I can so relate to it. +1 to that. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Coming to the topic, crafting a cohesive culture with human and technology. 2 minutes for each one of you, your perspective on the topic itself. Shashwat, I'll probably start with you.
So, and that's the opportunity. I will say we are living in a world where people lead with tech too much. As we think of culture, I think we need to step back and think of tech as enabler and think of what human things we can do. And that's the fundamental shift. And that's the big opportunity for all of us.
Thank you. Lisa.
Yeah, I think I recently read an HBR article about the technology and humans, and I think the way they described it was the braiding of technology in humans, and I think that's how I think about it, is we have to find a way to balance the use of technology while leveraging humans. And I think in the early days of automation, it was all about replacing humans. And we've moved beyond that to automate the things that are rote, and we need to use the technology now to enhance what humans bring, the human experience, the human brain, the human innovation. And so the way I look at it is it's the intersectionality of how the two work together, not necessarily one replacing the other.
Thank you. Alex?
Yeah, what Lisa said. No, I think for me there are a couple of things. When you think about culture and technology, the first thing is I think it has to be deliberate. You need to be thoughtful about where you introduce technology, how you introduce technology, and the consequences of that. So you actually have to be thoughtful about it. I think it's, you can inadvertently start to consume technology without understanding consequence. So you have to be thoughtful about it. But very much like Lisa said, I think is actually thinking about the intersection of human and technology is where the power comes, and it's actually a wonderful power if it's done thoughtfully. One, it is enabling. Technology can replace high volume, repeatable tasks and actually free up human beings to bring the human to work, and that is actually the differentiation that they bring, the value that they bring. I think that actually technology brings great value in bringing human connection, and we've never found that more than in the last couple of years. As we all suddenly had to go to our homes, as we had to sort of leave our workplaces, leave our schools, how would we have done that? I sort of sit there in bewilderment as I watch that we were able to bring tens of thousands of people home overnight, not miss a beat, keep working, our kids functioned, it was extraordinary. And so actually technology can enable human connection if it's used the right way. And the last thing, if it's going to actually lead to a good culture, then you really need to think about what leadership do you need to bring to bear, because technology can be seen as threatening, it can be seen to be replacing, or it actually can disaggregate workplaces. So you need to bring a different leadership thought to the whole process.
Thank you, Alex. The message is very clear. It's always about braiding in tech and human, not one for the sake of or at the cost of the other. It's not technology for the sake of technology. And when in doubt, a simple question to ask is, are we managing tech or is tech managing us? Hybrid or flexibility is here to stay. What's the most single important aspect that we should focus on when we are bringing the best of virtual to the best of physical? I'll start with you, Alex.
Sure. I actually think the first thing is to remember what the word is. It's hybrid, and I'm hearing a lot of people talk about 2 days in the office and 3 days from home. That's not hybrid. That's sometimes you work from the office and sometimes you work from home. So it's really thinking about how do you blend different ways of working in the same moment. And I think that is actually, as I said before, its biggest leadership challenge is to be able to have people on the phone, on video, in a room, and make that feel seamless. That's hybrid, not 2 days a week from home.
Yeah, I agree with Alex. I think the thing that I would say is personalization, because I think what we've come to realize based on what you said is organizations naturally like to put order in place. And so the whole conversation around 2 days a week, 3 days a week, Mondays and Wednesdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays is really about putting order. And I think what we've discovered is that hybrid means something different to every individual. And
Absolutely.
The way they want to balance that augmentation of being in the office or being at home and flexibility, which, that's forever been given to the workforce, and it's going to be a very difficult thing to take back. So I think as you think about hybrid and work with your workforces, it really is about being able to be personalized and allowing people to have choice, while organizations need to establish the most important reasons why people need to come together. So at Coca-Cola, we've established a set of principles and set of policies which is how we're looking at managing through things these days. And the principles are co-creation, collaboration, and celebration. So instead of saying you have to be here 3 days a week, we're saying when you need to collaborate, when you want to create, or when you want to celebrate, those are the moments when you should be in person because of the relationship component. So I think that personalization piece of it's really important.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll have a quiz at the end of the session, so remember the 3 C's, please. Shaswat, same question for you.
So most points Alex and Lisa has covered. So fundamentally, it goes to two principles, and I will add on. It's about empowering individuals to make the choices, and that's what Alex was referring about, and Lisa talked about empathy. So the whole empathy about individuals across the whole organization, from leaders and managers, is the biggest roadblock. Now, and it's not new. So a lot of people connect to this modern lingo of experience, empowerment, and things it's new. In fact, I literally remember when I joined Hewitt, and one of the first case study we were taught was Southwest Airlines launching its brand, and Hewitt did that work of freedom to fly. And freedom begins with me became the internal brand. So they went and stitched it then. In 2001, I'm saying, where every individual in an airline industry, which is about shift, work times, they were empowered to make choices and do adjustments and work across different. So it's a concept not widely used, but leading organizations have been doing for long. And then those are the organizations you will see sustained performance. And that's the opportunity.
Thank you, Shaswat. So if I were to summarize, we're hearing that the workplace is not just a place for people to come and sit in their corners and work, but it has to be for meaningful, intended collaboration and social interactions that we are designing for them. Okay, thank you. Lisa, my next question is to you. Again, the hybrid model that we've been talking about, and as Alex pointed out, it's not 2 days and 3 days. It's really about when somebody is either in office or at home, how do we weave stuff together? That's evolving, and then we're learning and adjusting by the day. What have been some of your successes and failures in driving this shift and change in your organization? And then how are you bringing the human and tech together?
So, I mean, I think for us, we're still trying to figure it out. So I wish I could say we had all the answers. I mean, the beauty of our business is we are truly global. We have employees in over 200 countries around the world. So we have always, in some sense, worked hybrid because we've had people in different time zones around the world. So I think where we are now is figuring out how to leverage that, and as Alex said, sort of how do you blend the two together so that it's not one or the other. And I would say from a failure standpoint so far is we haven't quite figured out how to use technology to enable those experiences seamlessly. And some of it's the tactics of, remember the old days of the teleconferencing when it's, am I on mute? And now we have the same thing. It's how many times did you hear this phrase during the pandemic? You're on mute, right? You're on the video call and you're talking away, and so we still haven't seamlessly transitioned into that environment of using technology to enable it. But more importantly, I think there's still a physical divide in the way technology is used in the office that makes it difficult for someone who's not in the office to feel included in that conversation. Yes. So for us, while we've added big video screens and we've done, other things, we are learning what all of you have probably learned is when you're in a conference room and you have other people on video, it's better for everybody to have their own screen so that it's not everybody in the room and then the box is on the screen, but people have that face. So I think we've learned that. But I think there's still a notion of, I popped into the metaverse session before. I think it's the next level of how do we augment the human experience with technology so that we can make that more inclusive. And what I'm excited about is the notion of augmented reality. I'm not sure about the metaverse and avatars. I don't quite buy into that. But I think that next generation of being able to sit here on the couch with Alex, and she is in New Zealand,
Avatar, yeah.
and I'm here, but I feel, you know, as he said, a spatial connection to her that I couldn't feel on a flat screen. So those are the things that I think we're trying to experiment with and trying to see where we go next. But I think right now, I wouldn't say that it's fully successful yet.
And how do you see some of these shifts impacting the culture, either positively or in nurturing the culture or otherwise?
Yeah, I was having a conversation yesterday morning. I had a discussion with an employee of our company who's fairly new, and they said to me, look, it's been really difficult to get the sense of the texture of the company and the leadership virtually. You know, I've only been with the company for a little under a year, and seeing everyone on video, while that's better than not, I still don't really know what it means to be a leader at Coca-Cola, because I haven't been able to be in meetings and observe their behaviors and things. So I do think that not being physically present does have its inherent challenges in developing and sustaining culture. We like to call our culture, you know, magic. You know, we have a purpose is to refresh the world, but there is something magic about being part of Coca-Cola, and that's very hard to have people feel when it's not present. So I think that's important. I think you have to build culture, and a lot of that has to be in person. But then I think the second thing is I am very worried about the next generation of leaders. I think it's very hard to learn how to be a leader if you aren't actually experiencing it in person, right? So I can teach you a class. You know, it's like when you learn in school, the professor teaches you a formula and that's fine, but until you can actually practically apply it, you don't really understand it. And I think the leadership behaviors piece without the practical application can be challenging.
You know, also in leadership, we often talk about the shadow of the leader, which is a real deal, both for the good and the bad. And so what shadow would we be talking if people are in boxes
That's
and
right.
probably not turning on their videos in the
That's
first
right.
place?
Yeah.
And those are genuine challenges, of course. Alex, building on what Lisa was just sharing, in today's context, how do you believe we can build innovative talent strategies with all the challenges that are around us?
Look, talent is such an interesting topic at the moment, given I think everyone is talking about the challenge of attracting, retaining talent. I don't think it's pretty much a universal topic at the moment. And I think some of the strategies are actually traditional, they're not new, but you have to rethink them. And some of them I think actually will require more leadership from organisations. On the not new side, most of us have always thought about what our employee value proposition is. Why would people choose to join us? And I think it's never been more important than it is right now, because people are making, you know, I think more deliberate choices about why they work, where they work, when they work. Certainly, you know, we're seeing that in Australia, we're seeing that in India, where we also have a significant workforce, actually pretty much in our global workforce. So for us, I think when you think about your EVP, you need to think about what's the context that you're operating in, and flexibility absolutely has to be at the fore in our mindset, because it has become something that's forever been given and can't be taken away now. So we do need to, in my view, think about how we build that into our proposition, not fight it. We had a huge adoption of flexibility before COVID. One, because like Lisa, if you're global, you actually inherently do, but we had gone about it as a core workplace strategy. So we had people on average working 2 days a week from home before COVID, so it wasn't a big shift to go to 2 to 5. But the thing is, it now has a whole new meaning, what flexibility is. So we've introduced location agnostic recruitment. So for most of our jobs, we don't care where you are. You can be anywhere, because it doesn't matter. not all of our jobs. In our retail stores, you actually have to be where the store is. That's just the way it is. But for most of our jobs, we can be anywhere, and that's been a big game changer. I think the other thing is that purpose has never been more important. Lisa just mentioned Coca-Cola's purpose. I think in the last 2 years, people have really decided to think about that meaningfulness of work, contributing to something bigger and feeling that they actually have an impact. They do something that matters. So I think as employees, we've got to get really, really clear on what our purpose is and why people would choose to join us. On the long-term sort of more innovative things, we need to create the pipelines and the talent of the future. In Australia, for example, we have a massive gap in supply of core technology talent. We don't come close to meeting the demand that we have, and everyone's looking at each other, governments, corporations, education institutions, everyone's wondering who's going to fix it, and I suspect it actually might require collaboration to fix it and for us to do it collectively. But we're looking, for example, at Telstra about how do we actually get into the schools. For example, do a virtual induction. How many careers advisors, how many mums and dads can tell people what a career in cyber or data analytics looks like? They can't. So we've got a job to do to actually get people excited and passionate about these being the careers of the future. So that's one of the things that we're doing. We've got cool sort of virtual technology, has to be virtual, where we can do that and we can have people explore those careers and start to see what future pathways will look like.
Like the one message that's coming out very clearly, again, Alex was talking about some of the old strategies having to be done differently. So it's not just about doing different things, it's also about doing things differently. That's going to be very critical for us. Thank you. Shaswat, my next question to you. From your vantage, what are some of the future challenges that we need to find answers for today to be ready for tomorrow? So look at it as fit for purpose and future ready.
Yeah, so it's an interesting and challenging question. So we did make the point about that all industries are suddenly leading with tech, and it's everywhere. I will start constructing a response going back to the points you have already made. You did talk about the fact that tech cannot be for tech's sake. It cannot be for its own purpose. Alex did talk about purpose. You again talked about the whole, how do you mix the things and look for solving fundamental issues. And that's a challenge because we tend to get stuck in the past behaviors without understanding there were limitations why we were doing it that way. So let me explain it with a couple of examples. Going back historically, oil and gas companies were the first ones to get into talent management succession. It was really painful to manage dossiers and profiles on each role and the potential successes. So they limited the volume. Even when the tech platforms came fully, which allowed you to map it top to bottom, we never did it because in our mind that was a real constraint. When the other side, the data, if you'll go back and look at engagement data, in spite of all challenges, careers has been the #1 driver for engagement for over 20-25 years.
Spot
it
on.
was just the need to connect the dots, both top down and bottom up, and you would have solved it. And it again actually got solved by another tech badge, which was saying talent marketplace. And then suddenly everyone is embracing it with a tech lens. But fundamentally, the problem was to step back and say, how do we solve the whole two purpose? One is how do we continue to have critical skills across the organization? And it's well researched that critical skills at all level capabilities help you innovate faster and do kind of things. And also if we care for employees and if career is the top driver, how do you accelerate that? Similarly, if you look at the other big piece around learning, all of us are climbing on various tech tools of micro-learning, animations. Now we are saying learning will be in metaverse, you will interact. All those are good things on their own, but still learning has very low adoption. Because if you again go back and look at the research or data, the learning is very effective when we have a need to learn. So for example, when you have a need to learn, you will go on Google, look at the most crappiest form of text instruction, and we will quickly learn and follow. So how do you create that sense of urgency and context to learn actually is the most effective driver of making that skill change. So that's where compliance happens, because you have a fear. If you look at onboarding, and when there is a CEO speech, that has a recall because it's coming with an individual, and then that creates a sense of urgency. And that's fundamental piece which we tend to overlook because there are so many other gizmos which are looking flashy. So I think the challenge for all HR professionals is, going back to the comments here, is how do we go back and say, look beyond programs, look at the fundamental purpose of why they were there, and start constructing a response, use current and future tech to accelerate it. So, and last example, maybe think of experience. Everyone thinks technology will solve experience. Technology will solve very small portion of experience, will provide you nudges, analytics, data for larger ecosystem of experience. Biggest impact and driver of experience will be leaders, managers, and colleagues. If you do not really get into the core, we will not solve it.
Shaswat, what you're saying is, so if I go back to my early statement, learning beats knowing in this journey,
Yeah.
and that has to be a continuous effort. It is transformation, and that has to come with a burning platform that is created by the leaders of the organization. Yeah. Thank you. We're down to the last minute and a half, so one question to all of you. There are a lot of leaders, young and tenured, in the audience today, and HR professionals. One parting advice. Shaswat, let's start with you.
I will just say, let's be willing to change. I think that will only accelerate. Most of us here have already few years in tenure, and that becomes our challenge. So this whole hunger to constantly learn and change is the one which will be good with us.
Lisa?
Yeah, I think my advice is we need to lead through the change. So those of us that are in charge of the people function, the HR function, we have always been sort of the receiver of work. We need to lead. Everything that we're dealing with and have been dealing with for the past few years has been about people. It's about people, culture, leaders. And so it's time for us to get ahead and to be focused on what's coming, not what has already happened.
Alex?
Yeah, a couple of things. The first is, I loved Lisa's comment before about people looking to reinstate control. Don't. Actually embrace the journey that we're going on and be curious, be courageous, but actually lead it. And leadership doesn't mean knowing exactly where we're going to land. It means having the courage and the foresight to have a look at where we might be going next and actually do the experiments every step of the way to find what the right landing spot will be. And HR right now absolutely owns that space and should be leading organisations, not following or waiting for someone else to set the direction.
Thank you, Alex. And then one from me. I've always believed, in a longitudinal journey, progress is important. So progress, not perfection, but while not compromising on execution excellence. So with that, I will come back to my earlier promise, a quick quiz. What are the 3 C's that Lisa was talking about? Yeah. Can I hear it from the audience? We can do it as a group exercise as well. First one. Co-creation. Second. Collaboration. Third. Celebrations. Fantastic. You've been a great audience. Join me in thanking Shaswat, Lisa, and Alex.